What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 171 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Monday, July 13th, 2026. I'm your host, Zach Malamo. Before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the world of baseball, as both New York teams were in action this weekend, and we'll start things up in the Bronx with the New York Yankees. They finished off their first half of the season on a 7-game road trip. They started down in Tampa to take on the Tampa Bay Rays. Of course, the Rays leading the American League East this season, but the Yankees split the 4-game set down at Tropicana Field. They win 5-1 in the opener and then lose the next two 6-4 and then 3-0, and then they finish off with a bang with a 12-4 win on Thursday to split the series against Tampa and then head into the final series before the All-Star break, and that was against the Washington Nationals. And this was not an easy series for Yankee fans to watch because it was pretty difficult against the Nationals team that all season long it's been the offense is phenomenal and the pitching is disastrous. And each and every game this series, that's exactly how it turned out. Washington had a lead because of their offense in most of these games, actually all of these games. Heading into the 8th inning, they led every single one of these 3 games, and the Yankees came back in every single one of them. It started on Friday, where the Yankees came back. They win this one 5-3, the final, and it was Jazz Chisholm who was the hero in the top of the 9th. The Yankees down 3-2 after the Nats went back-to-back in the 7th, Keibert Ruiz and then James Wood. They go back-to-back for the Nats to give them a 3-2 cushion, and then the Yankees respond. Jazz Chisholm Jr. into right field, into the second deck in right field at Nationals Park to give the Yankees a 4-3 lead in the top of the 9th. How about Austin Wells just shortly after that? Wells hits a bomb himself into right center field, and that gives the Yankees a 5-3 lead. That's how it would finish. This game also started with a Ben Rice home run, a really good sign for the Yankees with how well Ben Rice is playing in the absence of Aaron Judge. Ben Rice has been terrific, 29 home runs, and we're actually going to see him in just a short while in the home run derby tonight in Philadelphia. Ben Rice ends up getting the early bomb. It was Jazz Chisholm and then Austin Wells with the late bombs for the Bronx Bombers to win the opener of the 3-game set. Then you go into the next game on Saturday, and it also did not start well for the Yankees. They go down 2-0 in the blink of an eye. James Wood again with a home run, and then Meade followed that to make it 2-0. Washington. The Yankees respond with 3 bombs in the 8th inning. It started with Ryan McMahon starting to get going. He hits a 416-foot bomb into right center. That cut the deficit to 2-1. And how about Trent Grisham? Just a couple of batters later, he hits a 2-run bomb to give the Yankees a 3-2 lead. It was Paul Goldschmidt who added to the party. The next batter after that, a back-to-back home runs for the Yankees, and Goldschmidt gives the Yankees a 4-2 lead. That's how it would finish, and they win the first 2 games of the 3-game set, coming back in the 8th inning or later. Then it goes to Sunday, and you're thinking it could not be the same once again. How about the Nats take the lead early on? James Wood. Shocker there, and he leads off the game with a home run once again to give the Nats a 1-0 lead. The Yankees ended up taking the lead in the 5th inning with Jazz Chisholm, RBI single, and Austin Wells, another RBI single right behind him. That gave the Yankees a 2-1 lead, back-to-back, or another home run for Meade, and then an error that caused the Yankees to fall short in this spot. 3-2, and the Yankees, you think, okay, well, it's over once again. How about Ben Rice responding again? The Yankees go into the 8th inning trailing 3-2. They end up coming out of it with a 4-3 lead. They would add on with a Caballero sac fly after Rice, of course, with an RBI or a 2-run triple in the 8th. It was Caballero with a sac fly in the 9th. The Yankees win it 5-3, and they sweep the 3-game set. Not easy for Yankee fans to watch. I'll say it again. They come back in all 3 games in the 8th inning or later, and they sweep the Nationals. They finish going into the All-Star break on a 4-game win streak. Now let's get to our midseason grades, and starting with the Yankees, I'm going to give them a B so far this season, and a lot of that just has to do with the Yankees are 3 games back in the division right now in the American League East of Tampa Bay. But if you told any Yankee fan right now at the All-Star break they would have no Aaron Judge since the end of May, no Max Fried since the middle of May, and no Giancarlo Stanton for the first 3 months of this season, they would still be 12 games over 500 and have the best team ERA in all of baseball. I think any Yankee fan would take that in a heartbeat. It has been a little bit bumpy. June was not great to the Yankees. The start of July was not pretty as well. But they are 12 games over 500. It's a very weak American League, and this is a team that when they are healthy, they should breeze through the American League, especially when it comes postseason time. Their only challenge right now is the Tampa Bay Rays. And we've seen teams in the past, like Tampa, be really good in the regular season and then have a drop-off towards the end and into the postseason. I think the Yankees should breeze through the American League with the pitching staff that they have. And then, of course, Aaron Judge, if he's healthy, he's the best player in all of baseball, the best hitter in all of baseball. What he's able to do when he's on the field, and you're seeing the effects of when he's not on the field for this Yankees team. They've been pretty bad offensively in the last month or so, but even with that, 12 games over 500, I give them a B. It should be pretty close to an A in the end for the Yankees, considering what they've gone through so far in the first 3 months of this year. It's pretty good to be a Yankee fan right now. There's still a long way to go this season, but I think looking at the American League, it's a complete wasteland. And looking at the Yankees and the competition that they'll have postseason time, and if they are healthy, it's going to be a breeze, you would think, for this Yankees team heading into the months of October. But I shouldn't say that to too many Yankee fans because there's been recently a lot of heartbreak when it gets to October. So Yankee fans not going to get ahead of themselves. I understand that. But at mid-season point, pretty solid team that the Yankees have put together, even with all the injuries. So the Yankees right now sitting 54-42 heading into the All-Star break. We'll see what happens when they head back after the All-Star break and the rest of this season, heading towards October once again at Yankee Stadium. But shifting things to the other side of New York, as the New York Mets were also in action this weekend, and they were coming off of a really good series, a really good couple of series against both the Atlanta Braves and then the Kansas City Royals. The Mets end up splitting the 4-game set against Atlanta on the road at Truist Park, a place that's not been kind to the New York Mets in recent years. They end up splitting the 4-game set after losing the first 2. They win the next 2 10-9 and then 7-6 in 10 innings on Monday. Then you go into the 3-game set against the Kansas City Royals at Citi Field, and the Mets end up winning the next 2 after losing the first game 16-12. What an insane game that was. So many runs, so many bad pitching performances in that game for New York, and they end up losing the opener 16-12. Then they win the next 2, 6-2 on Wednesday, 7-3 on Thursday. And you head into this Boston series saying, hey, give the fans some confidence heading into the All-Star break. Some confidence or just a little bit to be happy about heading into the All-Star break in what's been a terrible season for the New York Mets. They were 14 games under 500 heading into that Boston series, and they finish it getting swept. For the 7th time this season, Mets are swept, and it came at home in front of the home crowd at Citi Field. Boston's been red hot lately, so give them credit. But the Mets are 17 games under 500 heading into the All-Star break. Not what Met fans ever imagined. One of the worst seasons ever in New York Mets baseball history. It's just going down based on the expectations. It's been terrible, and it started on Friday. Sonny Gray was on the mound, Nolan McLean on the mound for the Mets, and it did not really come down to Nolan McLean in this one. He ends up not even allowing an earned run in this one, but one of the runs that he allowed came on a Juan Soto error, and a guy that has been pretty flawless so far this season. The defense is the one area where Soto is not completely trusted just yet. by Met fans, and he ends up allowing a pop fly, an easy pop fly, to drop in left field, and they respond with a 2-run double. The Red Sox do. None of the runs were earned for Nolan McLean, and it was Masataka Yoshida who hit the RBI or 2-run double into left field. 2-0 Red Sox in the blink of an eye. The Mets responded with a sac fly from Soto, and then a couple of errors allowed some runs to score, but then it was Red Sox after that. Siegler hits a 2-run bomb. Abreu hits a 2-run bomb. It's 6-1, and then Beatty responded with a home run in the 9th inning to make it 6-2. That's how it would end. Sonny Gray gets his 11th win of the year. And Sonny Gray, talk about a guy who's just been so good so far this year, and one of the snubs from the All-Star team in the American League. 2.54 ERA right now, 11-1 on the season. One of the best pitchers in all of baseball he's been so far this year, and crazy that he's not at the All-Star game this week in Philadelphia. But the Red Sox sit a couple of games under 500. Maybe that's a little bit part of that. In the end, they win the first game of the 3-game set 6-2. Then you go into Saturday's game. It was pretty ugly from a Mets offense standpoint. They just could not get anything going. Only 3 hits on the afternoon. Freddie Peralta also with the loss. He's 5-8 on the year. He ends up giving a 2-run bomb up to Monasterio in the 4th. And then later on, the Mets with Tobias Myers on the mound. He allows a 2-run bomb to Masataka Yoshida. 4-0 the final. That's all the Mets had on offense was 2 Francisco Alvarez hits and then a Jorge Polanco hit as well. Just nothing you could do for this Mets team. They could not get anything going, and they end up losing the second game 4-0. Then you go into the final game of the 3-game set, and it was looking pretty good for a while. The Mets end up bringing a 2-0 lead into the 9th inning. Francisco Lindor with an RBI double in the 1st. Then he hits a solo bomb in the 6th. And the Mets, okay, head into the All-Star break with a win. Not how it's going. This game completely explained the entire first half of the season for the New York Mets. Head into the 9th. They got a 2-0 lead. They got some cushion. And Francisco Lindor, who had one of his best games of the season, his first multi-extra base hit game of the season, it's all overshadowed by an error in the 9th, what should have been a routine 6-4-3 double play to end the game is not. 1 out, and they have a couple of runners on, and Devin Williams then imploded from there. You can't put it all on Devin Williams in the end because the error from Lindor, but he goes the inning in the 9th. 2 hits allowed, the 2 runs with one of them being earned, 2 walks, no Ks, 22 pitches. His ERA is up to 4.83. Not a great ERA for a closer, if you ask me. Not a great season so far for the Mets, and it just completely fell apart in this 9th inning. And then, of course, in the 10th, when the Mets of course, could not score in the bottom of the 9th when they had an opportunity. They end up letting a sac fly in the 10th inning. Red Sox can move runners. That's one of the things they are great at, and they end up getting the run in to make it 3-2. Mets can't respond. They have the ghost runner on second base in the 10th. Nothing doing for the Mets, and they end up losing and getting swept in the 3-game set. Final in 10 innings as they lose 3-2 on Sunday. And getting to the midseason grade for the New York Mets, it's got to be an F. The expectation going into this year is that it was going to be better than last year. They're worse at everything this year compared to last year. And I think the positive you take is Juan Soto's been really good. Carson Bench has been really good in his first major league season. AJ Ewing gave this Mets team a little bit of juice coming up from the minors. After that, maybe Nolan McLean, but even Nolan McLean's struggled at some points this year. Everything else has just been terrible. And when you're looking at this team and the roster and the payroll that they have the second highest payroll in all of baseball, and they are 17 games under 500 at the All-Star break. One of the first times in a long time that the Mets sit in this position, selling at the deadline with just a couple of guys to keep on the roster. The rest of them can get out of town. That's how it's looking for this Mets team. They completely have to shake things up. And I think when you're looking at who's going to go at the deadline. Yes, it's going to be a lot of bullpen arms, and of course, it's going to be Freddie Peralta as well, who's going to be a free agent at the end of the season. But the bats need to start to leave. I think there's some guys in that roster, in that lineup, that just have to get out of here. The expectation for guys like Francisco Alvarez, Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos heading into the year is that those guys would be not backup plans, but really helpful plans in the bottom of the lineup. They've been terrible. Every single one of them has been bad. You look at the roster moves in the offseason. Jorge Polanco has missed 70-plus games this year. Luis Robert Jr. has missed 70-plus games this year. And you cannot make it up for this Mets team, and everything's gone wrong. Absolutely. And it can't get much worse than this for the New York Mets. I think looking at the positive in the end is that when you have a team that's this bad, and you do have a couple of guys that are playing good baseball right now. Luke Weaver is a big one out of the bullpen. You got to get some value for him. Clay Holmes is an interesting topic right now because, of course, he has an opt-out at the end of the year, and he's not getting paid at all like a starting pitcher. And the deserved money he should be getting, he's going to end up getting it in the offseason or from the Mets if they decide to re-sign him. If they do re-sign him, they better do it quickly because a lot of teams will be interested in Clay Holmes when it comes to the trade deadline. I think some of those offers could be a little hard to pass up. Yes, it's a little bit interesting based on his age, but looking at the impactful players for the Mets so far this season, a lot of them have been out of the bullpen or even guys that got hurt this year, and that's just what it is for the Mets. But the expectation, you got to be better than last year. That team missed the playoffs. This team is way worse than the team a season ago. And I think a lot of people have had it in the Mets fandom, and the Mets fans, the Mets organization, have kind of had it with the big names. Obviously, Juan Soto's separated from that, but the other big names, Francisco Lindor being one of the biggest ones. I think Met fans have almost had it. He's getting paid the money he is. He barely has played this year, and when he has played, he's been pretty terrible, and he's made a couple of very costly errors, especially on Sunday, that have hurt his stock right now. And for a guy who's getting paid like he is, it might be time to get out of New York. And that's just what it comes down to for the Mets right now. They are going to keep David Stearns. Steve Cohen talked about it a lot, especially a couple of weeks ago when he had that interview online. Looking at the Mets, though, they have to do something, especially at the deadline. They got to get these guys out and got to get some prospects in because the farm system, I think that's the biggest part for this Mets team. The biggest part that makes this grade an F is the farm system that David Stearns talks about time and time and time again. There's been some great impact from the farm system in recent years. In the last couple of years, he's had a couple of guys that he's really hit on. Carson Bench, A.J. Ewing, Nolan McLean at the top of the list, of course. Right now, the Mets are desperate for anybody in the farm system to help them out on the major league roster. They don't have it. And that's the biggest disappointment for the Mets because a team that should be near the top of baseball in payroll, they should have a good farm system, above average farm system, and then a roster of players that is capable of winning a championship. They don't have that. They don't have either one right now. And that's on David Stearns. They have to reset everything heading into next year and even before the deadline. Now, talk about who's going to leave and who's going to be here for next season. It's a really sour point right now in the New York Mets baseball history, but that's where we are. It's July 13th. We're in the All-Star break, and the New York Mets are 40-57. What a terrible year it's been for New York, and they look to try and get something, salvage something from the rest of this season. Hopefully have a better record towards the end of the year to give Met fans some hope heading into next season. But right now it's been pretty ugly as they get swept once again. The 7th time this season the Mets are swept after a 3-game set against the Boston Red Sox at Citi Field this weekend. But let's finish things off today in the world of soccer, as there's a couple of massive games on Tuesday and Wednesday this week. Tomorrow is the biggest one, in my opinion, starting off with a matchup that every World Cup fan, every soccer fan around the world is looking forward to. France against Spain. The battle that we've all been waiting for. It starts at 3 o'clock tomorrow. How about Mbappe? How about Lamine Yamal? It should be a barn burner down in Dallas tomorrow afternoon. I'm really looking forward to this game, and I think France, yes, is the better team. I think France will actually win the World Cup when it's all said and done. They are loaded in every single position. You can take Kylian Mbappe out of their squad, and they're probably still a top 2, top 3 team in the entire World Cup. That's how good they are, and that's how much depth they have on that France national team roster. Looking at it in the end, I will say Spain has the capability, because of the work they do defensively, to make this one a very tight game and a nail-biter towards the end. I think it could be 0-0 towards the end. It also could be 1-1, but a low-scoring type of game. I do think Spain has a chance to make it close, but I think France, the firepower that they have on the attacking end with Kylian Mbappe, who has 8 goals so far this World Cup. How about Ousmane Dembele, who has 5 goals so far this World Cup? Great stuff from France, and I think they are just completely loaded. Michael Olise, really at the heart of a lot of those goals, 5 assists so far this World Cup. So the Spain attacking side of things, of course, they have Lamine Yamal, and he's been a difference maker all year long, and wherever he's been a difference maker at just 18 years old. But right now, the attacking power and even the defensive power that France has and they'll bring to the table tomorrow at 3 o'clock is just going to be too much in my mind for Spain on Tuesday. So we'll see what happens, and we'll end up previewing the final on Thursday's episode. But there is another match, and that one is taking place on Wednesday. What a matchup we have once again down in Atlanta, this one. And it's going to be England taking on Argentina. Of course, Harry Kane on one side alongside Jude Bellingham against the GOAT. Lionel Messi takes his Argentina team back to the semifinals, second consecutive World Cup. Of course, they won the last one down at Qatar. And of course, when you look at Lionel Messi, 8 goals in this competition, a couple of assists as well. On the other side, it's been the Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham show. They've carried England on their backs, those two. 6 goals apiece so far this competition, and it should be a great matchup between two of the top teams in all of soccer. I think looking at this game, the odds favor England, but I think Argentina just has too much in terms of the firepower that Lionel Messi brings to the table, even at 39 years old. Plus the fact that I think England can be open defensively to some of Argentina's attacking power. When it comes down to Argentina on their defensive side, you really only have to guard 2 guys, it seems. Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham. And as impossible as that sounds, it's 2 guys versus, I think, multiple guys for this Argentina team. I know Lionel Messi has the most goals. He has 8 of them for Argentina, and that's carried them through the tournament. But I do like the attacking power that Argentina has in this game over England, based on the defensive side as well. I think Argentina defensively can be very strong and very tight-knit, whereas England can be a little bit more open, and they're trying to push attacking-wise. We saw that the other day in the matchup against Norway. They end up coming back in that one, so they do not care, but they can be open early on, and I think that's something that Argentina will look for in this matchup. What a couple of games it will be. 2 of the best in all of soccer history and all of World Cup history. Barn burners of semifinals. England, Argentina on Wednesday, and that follows France against Spain on Tuesday. Make sure you tune into both of those matches the next couple of days, and of course, we'll preview the final. The final takes place at MetLife Stadium on Sunday. We'll preview that match on Thursday's episode. But that will do it for episode 171 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malum, and thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Thursday.